Apple Intelligence is dumb. Really dumb. Why is Apple Intelligence dumb? Well, let me just get straight to it. So, I'm going to provide an example of how is it like to use the AI of Apple, which is Apple Intelligence, versus something else, like for example, ChatGPT or Grok from XAI or Gemini from Google. So let's start. I'm literally right now on my computer, as you can see, is a Mac, and I therefore have access to Apple Intelligence. But first, let's go and make something with a current AI models. Let's go with three: Grok, Gemini, and ChatGPT. So let's go right here. I'm gonna, oh fuck, view float on top. There we go. Now I cannot lose you. I cannot lose you. So I'm gonna put my camera right here. So let's go. I recommend a website for you to look at what are the most useful models for humans, which is called LLM Arena. The reason why I say most useful for humans is because this is literally a website where, like, basically human beings vote for the best LLM and AI chatbots without knowing. So it's like a blind test to see which AI is the best, right? Specifically LLMs. And the reason why I say useful to human beings is because humans are voting, right? If another species was voting, then it would be like another species has different needs. So, but yeah, let's just get to it. Like, unless you are a dolphin and you're watching this video, but no, you're not a dolphin, you're a human being, right? So, as you can see, literally says right here, backed by over 1 million community votes, our platforms ranked the best LLM and AI chatbots. So yeah, basically that's the page, and we are gonna basically use those models. For example, here, as you can see, it says model A, model B. You basically just write something, a prompt, and then the model A, model B is gonna give you a response, and without knowing what model it is. So yeah, you don't know what model it is. And then you need to choose, oh, okay, I think B is better. You just put B is better, and then you will know which model is basically you vote for. In this case, it's called Flannel. I don't know that model. For example, this case, Llama is from Meta. But whatever. The important thing here is the leaderboard, because basically here you can see from all the votes what's the best model in general, right? So for example, right now, oh, this is a new one. Right now, the best one is Gemini 2.5 Pro Experience, which this one is, I literally just need to click on it. It's from Google, and it's right here. Gemini 2.5 Pro Preview. So we're going to use that one. We are also going to use ChatGPT. I mean, right now I don't have access to ChatGPT Pro Plus, so I'm just going to use this one, the normal ChatGPT. And then Grok. This one I haven't seen yet. Seems like it came out like, yeah, it came out on, I don't know, on April. Yeah, 3rd of April. I don't know. I haven't seen this one yet, so I'm not gonna go through it. I'm gonna go through Grok, which is the on the number 1, 2, 3, fourth, based on this. I have it right here. So yeah, we have these three models. We have Grok, we have ChatGPT, and we have Gemini. And we're gonna compare it with Apple Intelligence, which is integrated to Siri, right? So we're gonna basically go through it right here. Let's say I want a query of, I don't know, knowing what is the most valuable industry or something like that. Let's go through it. So, what's the most valuable industry in the world as of April 2025? Now, For this query, I think Grok is going to be the best one because it requires research. And as you can see, this one doesn't really have an option for researching. And this one has an option for researching, and also this one. So I don't think that's the most. No, I'm gonna just no. What? Okay, let's go. What was the most valuable industry in the world in the? Okay, let's actually go really back in like 300 before Christ. Before Common Era. So let's go through this one, then go through this one. I don't know if this is fair comparison, but I just want to actually do it. So let's see. It goes, and then let's go through the ultimate test, which is Apple Intelligence. So let's see what think. Well, as you can see, there's the first thing of why Apple Intelligence is dumb. Basically because it's working with ChatGPT. As you can see, if I put it right here, like working with ChatGPT. I mean, it's not really.
In 300 BCE, one of the most valuable industries in the world was agriculture, particularly.
That's the thing that Apple really needs to improve. Is like they aren't really the ones who are pushing the boundaries for intelligence. Like they are relying on OpenAI, as you just saw, right? And obviously we all knew this, but I think they really need to start like creating their own technology around AI. I don't know, but let's go through it. There, obviously this one is much more. But yeah, agriculture. I like this format. Then here, agriculture. Yeah. So everyone had got that one right. But as you can see, Apple Intelligence, there's like the first flaw. It's relying essentially on this. So literally the response that Apple Intelligence gave me was very similar to this one. Obviously this one has a very different format. But like that's one flaw that I see on Apple Intelligence. Like they aren't really pushing. Like I just wanted to make this test for you for me to demonstrate how Apple isn't really investing into creating their own models, and that can be. I don't know. I don't think that's the best way. Like that's the path they're going to forward with. Like, who knows? Maybe right now they're working on some AI model that we don't know about, but I think that's not the best play by Apple because at the end of the day, they have the resources. They're literally the most valuable company in the world right now. They're like $3 trillion of market valued at, and they have the money, right? And here it comes the question: like they have the money, but then why? Like startups like Anthropic, for example. I forgot about that one. Anthropic is another startup, which has their AI model called Cloud. That one is more specialized into coding. That one is really good at coding. But there's startups coming up everywhere that don't have the amount of money that Apple has, and still Apple is not investing on this. And this is very interesting because if we look back at history, this has happened, or we don't know if this will happen with Apple, but we really like looking back at history and looking at the moment Apple is having right now with this new technology. Really start to like question, man, is Apple gonna die because of this? Like, is Apple gonna get left behind and therefore eventually die? Because like, if you look back at history, for example, I don't know, I'm gonna say the example of IBM. That was like in the 40s, 30s. Like it was literally like in the 19th century. They're the leading personal computing company, and then new competitors like Apple came up and just redefined what a personal computer is. Also Microsoft and other competitors, and they just basically got rid of IBM. Like right now, it's not like you go and buy an IBM computer, right? Right now I don't really know what's the business of IBM right now. I haven't really got into that, but let me actually search for it. Like, And let's actually use Apple Intelligence. Like, what does IBM do right now? Yeah, right now.
International Business Machines
For example.
was down 6.58% yesterday,
This is
trading
a great-
at $227
Whoa.
and 48 cents.
I mean, maybe this. I think this is a great example, and this is a very interesting dilemma because like what I wanted to know was what does IBM do right now, right? Like what are they doing before they were doing like personal computers? What are they doing now? And it's very interesting because let me actually think how I'm gonna say this. You know, there's this dilemma or argument. There's this argument. There's like two arguments towards just what just happened. First is Apple Intelligence is dumb. What I'm saying right now. Obviously, this is not what I wanted, and therefore I'm like, man, this is not. I don't like this. But then there's this other argument that says, man, you didn't really specify the prompt enough. Like you should have said something like, oh, knowing that IBM was selling personal computers or building personal and designing personal computers in the 19th century, and then basically they lost their business on that. What are they doing right now? You know, that will be a more specific prompt. But then, you know, and it's a valid argument. Like you need to write the correct prompt. But then the counter argument from this other argument is like, man, okay, yeah, I understand that. But at the end of the day, what is the most important? To like be right or make the life of the consumer easier, like the life of the user easier. And that's another very great argument. For example, one very important person right now on the world of AI that I heard talk about this, and that is basically, or at least from the thing that I heard from him, leans toward this argument of, man, make it easier for the consumer is, and it was literally around the same problem, is the CEO and founder of Perplexity. I don't know his name. I forgot about his name. Safari, Brave. What is the CEO of Perplexity? For the people that don't know what Perplexity is, it's basically a really great AI tool for searching. It has a really interesting concept of like putting the sources and all that. This guy basically, Aravind Srinivas. Okay, he basically is like the founder, one of the founders, and is currently CEO of Perplexity, of that you know, that AI startup, which is a really useful one. I really like Perplexity. But for example, he was basically saying the same thing. I think it was on Lex Friedman podcast where he was basically saying, oh, like, yeah, for example, my mother wants to use this model, and then she wants to know this. Perplexity gives he gives her a different response from what my mother wanted, and then I'm like, mother, you need to specify the correct prompt. You need to write like in a great way, for you, in a more specific way, for you to get that specific answer. And then he said, no, but now that I think about it, what is most important, to make it as easy as possible for the consumer or not? And then he basically said this argument about, man, it doesn't matter, like he basically said that the goal here, or at least I suppose with Perplexity, was no matter how you want to communicate, obviously you need to put something. It's not like the AI model is gonna read your mind for now, right? Like obviously in 50 years from now that's gonna happen with like the Neuralink and whatever. But like you need to, no matter how you write it or no matter how you express yourself, the AI model needs to give you the response. And this is literally what happened with Apple Intelligence. I personally lean more towards that argument of, man, we need to make it as easy as possible for the consumer. And therefore, since I lean toward that argument, that's why the title of this video is Apple Intelligence is Dumb. Because of this example that we just did. Like, I wanted to know about what IBM was doing before. Even if I know I didn't put it in the exact prompt. But like, why? Why should I put in the exact same prompt? Like, it's much, much better for the consumer to just get the response that I want. So now, obviously, I don't think this was the perfect example of why Apple Intelligence is dumb. There's other examples where I actually put the prompt, the exact prompt, and it gives me a totally different thing. So yeah, that's really something that they really need to lay down. Basically, here the problem is how they integrate Apple Intelligence into their current ecosystem, right? Into their current like OS, like how they integrate it. I don't think they're integrated in the best way possible. I think Android, for example, with Gemini is integrated in a better way. Even if I don't use Android as much from the like the current ways I have used it, I think it's much better. And I really think they need to make it more seamless. That's the great response, and more easier. Well, not more easier, more seamless. Like I just need they need to make it better, much more seamless, that integration, and much more intelligent at the end of the day. Because I mean, Apple is really good at making things simple. Sometimes very maybe too simple for users to use. But like in this case, it's a very different thing. And that's another argument. That also, for example, Marcus Brownlee was talking about on a video where he was talking about Apple Intelligence. I'm gonna go through the second argument, or second reason why Apple Intelligence is dumb. The first one that I talk about was just they don't have. If I want to summarize as much as possible, they just don't integrate into their ecosystem as in the best way possible. The second one, I think, and the one I'm gonna say right now, is how this is just a different game. Like this is something very like it's not. This is something new at the end of the day. Like 5 years ago, most people didn't knew about this technology, which is like LLMs and AI models, right? In specifically about language models, right? Obviously, there's a lot of other AI models. I'm talking about language models. Like 5 years ago, like the only guys that knew about it were like the researchers and the guys who were programming like ChatGPT 3 and whatever, and the test and the guys who were really into technology. So like obviously it wasn't seen like something AI Apple was gonna get into. Obviously in 2022, that was when basically I think AI exploded with the public release of ChatGPT, and that's when from there AI just started to go to the moon, and that's when Apple was like, okay, we need to do something. I think basically what happened, in my opinion, obviously I'm not the CEO of Apple, or I don't work there, so I don't know what actually happened, but I assumed what happened is basically, oh, there's this new thing, let's do something about it, right? Like what the fuck do we do? And since it's something new, it's something very interesting, but because this has happened a lot through history, as I was just saying with IBM, like they were doing this kind of like they had this vision for like technology and whatever. Then Apple came up with this new vision and they didn't adapt well through it. Or also Kodak. I think Kodak also was the same thing. They had this vision for photography, and then this other new technology came up. Or also BlackBerry, right? Like BlackBerry had this vision for smartphones, and then Apple, interestingly enough, came with the iPhone and just totally changed it, right? And but right now this is different, because this is different for Apple. Like the example that I gave before of like smartphones, like what they did it pretty well. Like at the end of the day, the reason why, I literally, the way in which you can see how well they did it is basically how most of phones are designed. Like if you really think about it, when the iPhone came up, every phone just totally changed its to the way Apple did it. Like before, it was like BlackBerry with the keyboard, the actual keyboard. Then Apple just went through for the touch screen, and then all the industry went through the touch screen. Then also when the iPhone X, I actually have an iPhone X, came up without the button, everyone went with that thing. So yeah, I think Apple really did great there, but that was some hardware stuff. Like at the end of the day, this is hardware. This thing, this thing right here, is like something totally different. Like obviously software, but also just something different. It's not just software. It's like AI. It's intelligence. It's like neural networks. It's like something beyond what Apple knows how to do. So I think that's basically, in my opinion, after like really seeing all this stuff come up and how Apple has responded to it, I think that's like one of the primary reasons of why Apple isn't really like just doing it right, because it's something new. And it's very interesting because like yeah, you can have that argument, but also you have this argument of, man, they literally have all the money in the world. They could literally get the best minds of AI into their company, but they're just not getting it right. So I don't know if they actually like are getting the absolute best minds of AI. I don't think so. Like I think OpenAI, XAI, Anthropic, all these guys are getting them. Google. It's a very interesting thing. At the end of the day, we don't have the right answers. I think we will never have the right answers. We are just like everyone is trying to guess what's happening with Apple and this new technology and how they're responding to it. It's just very interesting. In my opinion, I think it's just this something new, and they just don't know how to do it. Like they're just not used to it. Because at the end of the day, they're very great at making hardware. They're incredibly good at making phones and making computers and even like AirPods, and they're very good at that. But like this thing is totally different from that, and I just think they're not used to it, and I don't think they're prepared for it. And as I said, if you look back at history, that has happened a lot through to a lot of companies, and a lot of companies, because they basically weren't able to adapt to new tech or new stuff, they died, right? And it will be very interesting for that scenario to occur with Apple, because right now Apple is the most valuable company in the world. Like it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest company in the world, and it really seems crazy for Apple to go like literally just disappear. But if you like knowing history, that's a possibility. So yeah, that's very interesting, right? Now the third point that I want to make here is not that much about the technology of Apple Intelligence. We already know, I already say this is not really good integrated and all like some of the problems that it has. I just think, for example, the delays. This is something that Marcus Brownlee on his video talking about Apple Intelligence really went into, and just how they promise a lot in all of these events, which are tools that actually make like the experience like more seamless, right? Like how they integrate their OS to this new AI, and how that makes it really good. But they just haven't launched it yet, and we don't know if they're actually gonna launch it or not. Cause like on their event when they unveil Apple Intelligence and all these features, they like there's actually some features that are pretty interesting, but they haven't come out yet. And it's interesting because we don't really know when's that gonna come out. And I personally think it's gonna come out eventually, like in, I don't know, in maybe some years or even months. We don't know. I think personally it's gonna come out, but one of the reasons why I'm making this video of basically this video, if we can summarize it as much as possible, is about we're just not trusting Apple being good at this thing, or being good at actually getting this right. And one of the primary reasons of why we're having that thought, a lot of people, is because they're really not delivering on their promises. Like at the end of the day, just think about it. We don't know when those features are gonna come out. They haven't released them yet, and that's really adds a lot of uncertainty to be like, like, it's just there's something off with it. So I think those are the like three primary reasons of why, not only Apple Intelligence is dumb, but why maybe Apple hasn't really gotten this right yet. Obviously the underlying technology is basically ChatGPT, like for complex stuff that sometimes it's not even complex. You really like most of the times goes through ChatGPT. So and for the things that doesn't go to ChatGPT, some, like, a lot of the times doesn't give you the answers that you want, and then for some of the times obviously it gives you the answer that you want and whatever, and performs actions that you want and whatever. But like basically it hasn't made, like, it's not that intelligent, right? And that's another thing. For example, we all thought Siri was actually going to be helpful. Was actually going to be like, wow, helpful, man. Siri's going to be helpful, right? And that's what I'm talking about. A thing that they announced where they actually said, man, Siri is actually going to be useful. Like for people that have used Siri for quite a long time, it's not that great, right? Like there's, some things where it's really good at, but a lot of things is not good at all, not really helpful, not really useful. So when you are seeing this announcement from Apple where they're like, man, Siri is actually gonna get really useful, you're like very excited. But then when that doesn't come out, you're like, man, are they really gonna get it out, or are they having problems? Like, what is happening, right? That's basically one of the reasons, as I previously said, of why I'm making this video, of why a lot of people are really convinced by the way Apple is, you know, playing the game with this new technology, or the way in which it's adapting with this technology. And those are my primary three reasons of why this is happening. At the end of the day, we don't know. Maybe tomorrow, literally after releasing this video, actually Apple delivers all of its promises, and this video therefore is no longer valuable. But I don't know. It's very interesting. It really makes me think if this is one of those moments, if one of those moments of history of business is going to repeat itself, where companies really big, like the biggest companies, didn't adapt, do not adapt to the new tech or the new stuff or whatever, and they just die. I don't think that's the case with Apple, but it's a possibility, right? So yeah, man, like Apple Intelligence, I want to recommend it. Like for example, there's a friend, on a classmate in school that literally is just gonna buy the iPhone 16e, which comes with Apple Intelligence, just for Apple Intelligence. I was talking with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna buy it for Apple Intelligence, whatever." And I'm like, man, they really convince you with the marketing. Like Apple is really good at convincing you with marketing. Like they really did convince you that this shit is incredible. But like after using it on my computer and seeing the reviews of people actually using it on their phones and whatever, I don't recommend it to you. Like just install like all these AI models on your app and whatever. But who knows? At the end of the day, this is my opinion. I think Apple really is not. It's just not getting it right as of up April 5th, 2025. Maybe tomorrow on April 6th they will actually deliver its promises and make this 10 times better and whatever. But that's just not happening, right? That's just not happening. And just look at the website that I said in the beginning. Like at the end of the day, this is literally the website that I'm gonna show, that I already showed, sorry, is literally the voice of the people. Like this is literally the opinion of more than 1 million human beings that are actively using these models, being like, man, this is actually useful for us. And you don't see any like Apple stuff here, obviously, because they haven't actually developed something like their own model. They're using like ChatGPT. But like, I think this is a great way to view that. So yeah, man, I hope Apple actually gets this right, because at the end of the day, they have an incredible opportunity. Like there's a lot of people who have Apple devices, and like leveraging all the Apple hardware there's out there, that would be incredible. Like obviously there's more, for example, hardware devices from other companies, but in my opinion, I just think Apple is really good at hardware and making hardware products. So if they can really nail this AI stuff into their already very useful and pretty good hardware devices, that would be incredible. And I just hope that happens, man. Maybe it happens, maybe not, but at least one thing is true. Right now, Apple is just not getting the AI stuff right. That's it.